You know that feeling, right? You have this brilliant idea, you pour your heart and soul into it, and then it just fails. It's a nightmare. Well, today we're going to talk about a methodology that was literally designed to prevent that from happening. It's called the lean startup, and it's all about figuring out what customers actually want before you waste all that time and money building it. And this whole idea, it was born from failure. Seriously. The author, a guy named Eric Ries, he's looking back at his very first company. And get this, they had a brilliant team, what they thought was a great product, and it failed, like spectacularly. And his big takeaway from all that pain was this: a great idea just isn't enough. You have to have the right process. Which, of course, leads to the single most terrifying question for anyone trying to build something new. After all that money, all those late nights, what if you build something that nobody wants? I mean, that's the ghost that haunts every single project, right? And the lean startup, well, it's designed to get rid of that ghost for good. All right, so let's get into it. First up, the startup's biggest risk. So how do we avoid building something nobody wants? Well, first, we got to figure out what the biggest risk actually is. And I'll tell you right now, it's probably not what you're thinking. It's not about running out of cash. It's not about your competition. The real danger is building your masterpiece in a total vacuum, completely cut off from the very people you hope will use it. And that brings us to the most important point, the greatest source of waste. It isn't being slow or inefficient, no. It's being really good at building something that is completely and utterly useless. I mean, think about it. It doesn't matter one bit if you hit your deadlines and stay under budget if, at the end of the day, your amazing product just lands with a thud because it solves a problem that nobody actually has. Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the solution? Well, to find the answer, Eric Ries didn't look to other tech companies or fancy business schools. No, the answer came from somewhere much more grounded and, honestly, a pretty surprising place. Yeah, that's right. The answer wasn't in some Silicon Valley boardroom. It was in the factories of Toyota. The inspiration for the super modern, agile way of building businesses actually came from the world of manufacturing. We're talking assembly lines in post-war Japan. It's kind of a wild contrast when you think about it, isn't it? See, Toyota basically invented something called lean manufacturing. Their whole philosophy, their secret sauce, was built on just two core ideas. First, make the size of each chunk of work as small as possible. And second, speed up the time it takes to get one full cycle done. This obsession with eliminating every last bit of waste, that became the blueprint for the lean startup. So let's look at the difference here, the old way versus the lean way. The old way, well, it's kind of like a submarine, right? You write this huge, detailed business plan, you submerge for months or even years building in secret. Then you surface and just hope you're in the right place. The lean startup completely flips that on its head. It says, forget the submarine, stay on the surface. Treat everything you do as a science experiment. You build a little, you learn a lot, and you adapt, constantly. Okay, so experiments. That sounds great, but how do you actually run them? Well, at the very heart of this whole thing is a super simple but really powerful feedback loop. You can think of it as the engine that drives the entire process. And here it is, the build, measure, learn loop. It's exactly what it sounds like. First, you build. You take your idea and turn it into something basic, a simple product or an experiment. Then you measure. You get it out there in front of real customers and see how they respond. And this is key. You measure what they do, not just what they say they'll do. And finally, you learn. You look at that real-world data and decide, okay, what's next? The whole point of this cycle, you see, isn't to just build more features. The goal is to learn as fast as you possibly can. And this idea, it completely changes how you measure progress. I mean, forget about vanity metrics like how many lines of code you wrote or how many features you shipped this week. The only thing that truly matters is what he calls validated learning. It's a simple question. Have you proven, with actual, hard data from real customers, that your ideas about the business are correct? That's it. That's the real measure of progress. Okay. The theory sounds great, I get it. But how do you actually do this stuff? Well, it really boils down to two of the most famous and practical tools in the entire Lean Startup toolkit, the MVP and the pivot. All right, first up, the MVP, or minimum viable product. Now, this is probably one of the most misunderstood ideas in business today. So let's be really clear. An MVP is not just a smaller, buggier version of your final product. It's not about that at all. It's a tool. It's an experiment. Its only job is to get you the maximum amount of learning with the absolute minimum amount of effort. Let's look at a few examples. Groupon, right? Huge company, but they didn't start with some massive, complicated website. Their first MVP was just a simple WordPress blog. That's it. The founders would manually post a deal of the day, and then they'd email PDF coupons to anyone who subscribed. It was super basic, totally manual, but it proved people wanted what they were offering. Or how about Dropbox? Their idea for seamless file syncing was really hard to build. So instead of building it, they made a video, a simple 3-minute video that just showed what the product would do. And that video, it got them a massive waitlist, thousands and thousands of people, before they had even written a single line of code. They validated their entire business idea with a video. And one more, Zappos. The founder had to answer a really basic question that sounds crazy today. Will people actually buy shoes online? So what did he do? He went to local shoe stores, took pictures of their shoes, and posted them on a simple website. When someone clicked buy, he would literally run down to the store, buy the shoes at full retail price, and mail them to the customer himself. No inventory, no warehouse, just a perfect, simple experiment to get that validated learning. Okay, but what happens if the data from your MVP shows you're on the completely wrong track? You launch your experiment, you get it out there, and crickets. The data is bad, your big idea, your main hypothesis is just wrong. So what do you do then? Just pack it all in and go home? No way. This is where that second critical tool comes into play, the pivot. Now, a pivot isn't just a random change or an excuse to give up. It is a structured, strategic course correction based on what you've learned. When the experiments show you're on the right track, you persevere and double down. But when they prove your idea is wrong, you pivot. You take what you've learned and you use it to test a brand new hypothesis. Now, it's pretty easy to imagine how all this works for a couple of people in a garage starting a new company. But what about a huge, established corporation? Can this kind of scientific approach to innovation actually work inside a big, slow-moving company? The answer is a resounding yes. And for proof, let's look at Intuit. You know them, they're the massive financial software company that makes things like QuickBooks and TurboTax. And for a while, they were really struggling. They were launching new products, and way too many of them were failing. So they decided to try something completely different. So here's the story. Inside this giant company, they put together a tiny, independent team of just 5 people. Their mission? Tackle the nightmare of filing taxes. They started with an MVP, a super simple app that only worked for California residents with the most basic tax returns. And the key feature, the thing they were testing, just letting people take a picture of their W-2 form. Their whole goal was to turn this awful chore into something that felt, well, almost magical. And the results were just wow. After learning from that tiny California-only MVP, they launched it nationwide. The app got 350,000 downloads, not in a year, in the first 3 weeks. It was a home run, a massive success story that was born from one tiny, focused experiment. And this quote from Intuit's founder, Scott Cook, just nails the whole mindset shift. He said, "Success is not delivering a feature. Success is learning how to solve the customer's problem." That's it right there. The goal isn't just to build stuff. The real goal is to learn. Success isn't about checking boxes on a feature list. It's about actually solving a real problem for a real person. So, as we wrap this up, remember that the big message here isn't just for tech entrepreneurs. It's for anyone, in any field, who's trying to create something new. And that leaves me with one final question for you. What's the single biggest, most critical assumption you're making about your work or about your next big idea? And more importantly, what's the smallest, fastest, cheapest experiment you could run, maybe even today, to find out if you're actually on the right track?